Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter. In the last issue of Famitsu, which is a Japanese publication here in Japan, Famitsu had an interview with the top development staff for Monster Hunter World. We have on the left here Tokuda-san, who's the director. In the middle, we have producer Tsujimoto-san, and on the right, executive producer and sort of in charge of the art direction and world building, which is Fujioka-san. It was an interesting interview. I didn't really cover it too much because I thought most of this information was already a given, but it is making the rounds because they talk specifically about adding in new maps to the world of Monster Hunter World, which is an exciting prospect for a lot of people who, may be surprised to know that that's a very, very high possibility. Anyways, I'm just going to give you my abridged version of this interview in English because it was in Japanese, and we're just going to jump in through it. So the title of the interview just says, "The First Fleet's Ship Stranded on the Rocks and Other Mysteries of the New World." And the interviewer asks here, how many of the 5 maps cover the entire New World? Looking at the map in your room in the game, it only seems like it counts for half of it all. Tsujimoto-san says, haha, you've got a good eye. And Fujioka-san takes the responsibility to answer this question. He says, it really is an area of interest, isn't it? In the game, it's presented as a continent, so it would be pretty boring if it was just an island covered by water, so we specifically made it in a way that it expands out. Of course, we tell and finish our entire story on just this continent. How big is the actual land? Well, I'll leave that to your imagination. Going forward, for new opportunities to tell new stories, this is the foundation we'd work on. Every time we would add a new field, it would get harder to keep consistency, but this is something that we'd like to aim for to make sure it feels like it fits in. Now, mind you, he says it in a way saying, like, it sounds very much in Japanese like, yeah, we're going to add a new world, even though it's going to be very difficult to keep consistency. We're going to aim for that. So then the interview question asks, maps have a compound structure, so if you were going to add a new field, it'd be pretty hard, right? Then Fujioka-san answers, yeah, if we don't pay attention, we could risk destroying the world that we all worked so hard to create. Then the interviewer asks, maps like the Ancient Forest and the Wildspire Waste, the Coral Highlands and the Rotten Vale, they all are connected. Where did this idea start from? So Tokuda-san answered this one. He said, the idea is that Astra is at the center of operations, and as you progressed, you'd understand where you were, giving you a feeling of, wow, I've come this far. The entire New World continent is one ecosystem, and each field has a sort of own sub-ecosystem. And how these are connected is what we wanted to tell in our story. At the first stages of development, we decided that an interconnected world was exactly what we'd make. Then Fujioka-san continues, we wanted it connected in a way that after finishing the story, you'd look back at maps like the Ancient Forest with a new perspective of how it was connected to the field next to it and in the overall scheme of things. Then the interviewer asks, yeah, Astra is also very multi-layered and it's really unlike anything we've seen in the series before. Then Fujioka-san answers, well, you have the First Fleet's boat, which for some reason has been washed up onto the cliffs and has become the gathering hall. Then they thought they'd use the water from the waterfall underneath it, and that's where the Second Fleet built their base of operations. Then you've got the beach and the easier places to do trade, so that's where they built the trade yards. So you can see how everything kind of grew downward from there. Then Tokuda-san continues, this is an unknown world that everyone is going to, so even the ship that you came on is a very important resource. We wanted people to be like, wow, this world's got a lot going on, and what the heck caused their boat to get up there in the first place? This type of visual impact and storytelling is something we were looking for when we designed the main town. So then the interviewer question asks, did you think a lot about how the placement of all the facilities in the town would be laid out? And Tokuda-san answers, we went with the current flow to encourage people to walk around the town, meet new characters, but also easily get through stuff to play the game. We could have done more, but it's a really tough thing. Like, technically you can do a lot of the facility stuff through menus, but that would be pretty dull and you wouldn't feel like you're really part of a much larger research commission. Then Fujioka-san continues, we wanted to have a special feeling for the place and wanted to make sure that players felt immersed. It's a balance between function and world building to make a single space that works for that. If it's too large, then it becomes less functional. So like, for example, we moved everything really close together, but then it didn't feel like a lot of people were living in the town. So we carefully placed stuff how we ended it up in the final game, and we added in shortcuts that will allow you to move around faster. Then the interview sort of changes direction and starts talking about the songs. The interview question here being, there's many different songs in Monster Hunter World. What concept did you have when creating the overall theme? Then Fujioka-san answers this one. He says, look, you're a member of the Research Commission and you're going to adventure out. You might find nothing or you might find some huge discoveries. So we wanted a theme song that really drives the research forward and really feels like an adventure. I think we really got that in our theme. In our games, we also traditionally have one song that has singing, so we made that the ending theme for this game, and it sort of has the same musical phrases as all the other songs in the game, and it really works to tie everything together in the end. So then the interviewer asks here, speaking about the flow of the songs, what about the map songs and the monsters? Then Fujioka-san answers, we wanted variation, but also songs that really capture the feeling of the maps and the specific characteristics of each monster. So for example, take something like Bazurugyosu, Basil in English. He's a monster that invades, so we wanted to make sure that it had a part that had a lot of impact, and the melody was kept really simple so that it was something that was very memorable and easy to recognize. So it really sticks in your head, and when you hear it, you kind of like, uh-oh, where is he coming from? For returning monsters that we had their theme songs coming back for, we definitely kept the original song, but we rearranged it in a way that makes it feel more that it fits in the world of Monster Hunter World. So then the interviewer asks, hey, it's been like 2 months since launch, so what is the toughest thing that you guys are working on right now? Then Tsujimoto-san says, we're working on updates, so we actually do not have a feeling that we finished this game at all. Then Fujioka-san jokes here, he says, we did the official launch party or finish party when we released the game, but even then, we were already working hard on updates. Tokuda-san jokes in here, he's like, yeah, it's like, you're invited to a party and you're kind of like, guys, I'm working here. Then Tsujimoto-san adds in here that he's like, look, it's not a complaint, but we're getting completely drowned in from other, interviews and questions from overseas media and players, as well as domestic. He's like, but it's a good thing. We're really happy to do it, and we really love all the questions coming in. Then Tokuda-san finally just reiterates, he's like, look, we have several updates planned with new gameplay and stuff to enjoy. We're all continuing to work really hard on this game, and we hope you look forward to it. Fujioka-san says, a reminder that we have the Spring Festival going on until April 20th, and then Tsujimoto-san chiming in at the very end, which I like, saying, look, I know a lot of players are already at the endgame stuff now, but the joy of Monster Hunter is, having fun and meeting new people and playing with them, so I hope you guys can continue to find lots of enjoyment, even though you might be at the endgame. And then just reminds everybody that there's that contest, the Time Attack, tournament that's starting over here in Japan, and he hopes you look forward to new stuff in Monster Hunter World. Anyways, it was a nice interview. It was pretty basic. I think what people are excited about is that it's very clear in the Japanese in the tone that they plan to add a new map to the game. I thought this was already a given, but I guess some people didn't know that. But they don't say it in a way like, yes, we're going to be adding a map and we're working on it right now. They keep it vague because, it's not an announcement. But they did talk a little bit about, what's going through their heads when they're thinking about stuff like that. So very excited to see what they come up with. Who knows when that might come, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down and below. I personally would love to see a snow map added in. We have lots of monsters and we sort of have a lack of good ice monsters, so I would definitely love to see that. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope this shed some more light on that interview. Hit that like button if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, happy hunting.